بيرسون أحسن. بصير أنا أتكلم بعد الصلاة ولا؟ appeal on. I can do that. متى أصلا صلاة المغرب العشاء متى؟ إقامة. Should we start here? 9:15. Should we start here? طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله، الحمد لله لا شريك له، لا إله إلا هو وإليه النشور. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وكلمة الإخلاص، وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين. اللهم إنا أمسينا منك في نعمة وعافية وستر، فأتم علينا نعمتك وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما أمسى بنا من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك، فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. أحبتي، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. وطبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا بإذن الله. I'm really glad to be with you here in this masjid tonight. This is the very first time I'm visiting this community. Jazakumullah khairan all for giving me the opportunity. Sheikh Ahmed, our Imam, Brother Ahmed Rajab from Guidance Residential, which is different from Guidance College, to make a disclaimer from the very first minute. And for the leadership of the masjid, thank you very much for the opportunity. Maybe it was announced that our topic for tonight is Islamic Finance 101 or Introduction to Islamic Finance. Let me just make it clear that when we say Islamic finance, okay, I don't think we are doing enough justice to this system, because it's not exclusively an Islamic one. It is, believe it or not, a Jewish one. Believe it or not, it is a Christian one. So instead of calling it Islamic finance, let's call it divine finance. This is a part of the Islamic law. And maybe one of the main components or characteristics of this system is the prohibition of interest, that Muslims do not deal with interest. Is that correct? Well, the Quran itself actually is declaring it, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited the Jewish community from dealing with interest. He criticized them in the Quran by saying, وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. They used to devour or take riba from one another, despite the fact that they were prohibited from doing so. What we believe in is that the major prohibited matters, whether it is drinking, or it is killing, or it is fornicating, or dealing with interest, if it is haram in Islam, it goes without saying that it is haram in Christianity, it is haram in Judaism. All these different religions are from the same source, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's more fair and just to call it divine finance instead of calling it Islamic finance. However, mainstream practice nowadays, call it Islamic finance. Well, that's fine. We'll call it Islamic finance. This is number one. And number two, the prohibition of interest is not the only characteristic of this system. There are different components that have to be taken into consideration in order for you to evaluate any system in front of you, any business, any corporation, any contract, any business, agreement between different people. First of all, you look at the core business, what this business is all about. Okay, is it dealing with winery, for example, or gambling, or adult entertainment, or tobacco business, or anything that is really harmful to the society? If the answer is yes, then it goes without saying that this is haram. Just put it aside. Even if the contract is the Sharia compliant one, the core business itself, right? The core business itself, okay? The business, matter actually is a haram one. So this is a non-Islamic one, like from day one. And then after that, you look for the nature of the agreement. Nature or the essence of the agreement. Okay, is it proven that someone is advancing money to others without taking any risk whatsoever, taking advantage of other people, taking advantage of the need. It's going to be too high. Off. Am I speaking too fast? I can slow down. Okay. So we need to investigate and find out, is it proven that someone or one of the parties is advancing money to other people, to other partners, okay, other participants in that business, and their principal is guaranteed and their profit is guaranteed. Okay, in a very simple, words, someone actually is exploiting other people, taking advantage of the need of other people. Someone who does have money, while others do not have money, and that's why that person or that entity or that partner, call him or her, whatever you want, is giving money, okay, to others, and the principal, the money that he gives, is guaranteed by the law of the land, by the agreement between the two contracting parties, and the profit or the benefit or the return on investment is guaranteed as well. So there is no possibility of losing anything. Principal is guaranteed, profit is guaranteed. If that is proven, then that is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Maybe you have heard about different definitions of riba that are very confusing. Riba al-fadl and riba al-nasa, riba of increase, riba of forget about all these different definitions and just focus on only one very simple definition, okay, which is the most severe level of riba, which is the kind of riba that its prohibition is something agreed upon. Something is agreed upon. Maybe we do have some slight differences between even the companions themselves regarding the prohibition of riba al-nasa and riba al-fadl. Again, do not confuse yourself. Just focus on one different, one unique, okay, very distinct category of riba, okay. That kind of riba shows clearly that the financier or the one who gives the money is guaranteeing his principal, is guaranteeing his profit as well. Okay. In other words, he is taking advantage or exploiting, others, taking advantage of others. This practice actually is prohibited because this practice is riba, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited riba. So from now on, when I mention the word riba, I want you to remember the following definition. It is the premium, okay? And I want you to know it by heart because I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you. It is the premium that must be paid. The premium, okay, I'm going to go like slow motion. The premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount, either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. The premium, it has to be paid, okay, premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount, either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. What does this mean? We have two different scenarios here. Okay, someone might give a loan to somebody else, okay, with the condition from day one that this amount, okay, you go to Bank of America and you apply for a loan, whether this is a business loan, investment loan, personal loan, right? Personal loan, student loan, whatever the category might be. You know from day one that those $10,000 will never be paid back 10,000. You have to pay extra on top of the 10,000. Okay, this is actually the premium, the extra amount, the surplus that must be paid by the borrower, by the victim, which is you in this case, the borrower, to the lender, which is Bank of America in our example. Okay, along with the principal amount, of course, as a condition for the loan, which means that if you do not agree to pay extra, that extra might be $1, might be $1,000. We do not care about details. How much is the APR? Is it a simple interest or compound interest? Is it a one-time payment? Is it monthly payment? Regardless of all these technical details, this is not our topic for tonight. Our topic for tonight is to identify Islamic finance, what does it mean? And why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to abide with the rules of the Islamic finance whenever we transact and we deal in any business transaction with other people. Okay? So the borrower has to be back to the lender along with the principal, either as a condition for the loan, which is the case here, because if you do not agree to pay extra money, you will not get the 10,000 from Bank of America, simple as that. Right? Now this is one scenario. Other scenario, or for the extension of its maturity, which means that it might happen that you apply for a loan, or you ask your Muslim brother who prays with you in the same masjid for $10,000 again. Okay? And he gives you the $10,000, okay, and says, listen, you have from now until the end of 2021. If you pay me in full, okay, successfully before the end of 2021, you're good to go, no consequences. Okay, $10,000, no more and no less. If you default, then there will be some consequences. You have to pay whatever, APR, monthly, $10 per day, whatever the formula might be, but you have to pay on top of the 10,000. Now, this is haram, and the first scenario is haram. However, they are not in the same level of prohibition. Because in the first scenario, when you went to Bank of America, there was no possibility for you to avoid interest. You have to commit to paying interest from day one, otherwise, no money. Now, in the second scenario, still prohibited, do not get me wrong, but it's not in the same level of prohibition as the first one, because there is a good possibility that you pay in full before the end of 2021, and you're good to go with no consequences, with no interest. The second scenario was very prevailing, widely spread in the Jahiliyyah before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and even during Islam before the permanent prohibition of riba. You read, for example, in Muwatta Imam Malik, which is one of the main resources of the Maliki school of thought. Okay? Imam Malik reported that كان الرجل يقرض الرجل. People used to lend, like give money to one another, lending one another. فإذا جاء الأجل, okay, whenever the loan is due or upon the maturity of the loan, إذا جاء الأجل قال أمهلني وأزيدك. The borrower would approach the lender by saying, listen, I do not have money. Give me more time and I'll give you more money. Give me more time and I will pay you more. Do not worry. So they both introduced the concept of riba toward the maturity of the loan. They started interest-free loan, believe it or not. In the beginning, there was no condition of paying interest. Take $10,000, you pay it back to me, 10,000. Upon the maturity of the loan, the borrower would approach the lender by saying, give me more time and I'll give you more money. Right? Or otherwise, فإذا جاء الأجل قال إما أن تقضي وإما أن تربي. Okay? The lender might approach the borrower by saying, listen, the loan is due. You have two options. You either pay me now, or otherwise if you want more time, that's fine, but you have to pay me more. Right? فأنزل الله سبحانه وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله. The very famous ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permanently till the day of judgment prohibited riba. What kind of riba? This kind of riba that we are talking about, which is riba ad-diyun, the interest-bearing loan, right? Interest-bearing loan. Riba al-jahiliyyah, okay? Riba al-nasi'ah, sometimes they call it. Riba al-nasi'ah, which is a very simple concept. You take money and you pay it more than what you have received, as simple as that. So from now on, whenever I say the word riba, I want you to remember this definition. I'm going to say it one time and then I will ask randomly someone to say it by heart. Okay? Might be Ahmed Rajab, so be careful. Anas maktub. Okay. It is the premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount, either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. Yalla Shaykh. For the loan or for the extension of its maturity. Well, believe it or not, in my very, very humble experience, more than 95%, 99% of the interest-bearing transactions in the USA belong to this particular level of riba. It's an interest-bearing loan. Okay? Let me ask you a very simple question. What is the main job of banks? I mean, forget about wiring money and opening a checking account. What do they do for a living? How do they make money? They lend money for interest. That's their job. They lend money for interest. As simple as that. So this is actually the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. This is actually one of the very major, very fundamental differences between the Islamic finance and the non-Islamic finance, or the man-made law, or the capitalist economic system that is prevailing nowadays. In the Islamic finance system, okay, there is no riba. And based on that, loan is not a mode of finance to start with. Loan is not a mode of finance. You cannot go to an Islamic bank and ask for $100,000 to make a business and you pay it back $100,000. I mean, this is a very bad business, right? If I do have, which is not the case for sure, if I do have $100,000 and you approach me asking me for an interest-free loan, because both you and I are very practicing Muslims, we do not deal with interest, right? Okay, and I know for a fact that you will be taking my money, to upgrade your business and to use my money for 1 or 2 years, and then after 2 or 3 years you come back and you give me the $100,000 with a big hug, Sheikh, Jazakallahu khair. I mean, that's a bad business. I mean, why should I allow you to use my money and to make money from my money while I'm just sitting and watching you? Okay, I should not even agree to give you money if I know that you want my money for business purposes. Loan actually is to be given for humanitarian purposes, for cooperation purposes. Someone wants to make a surgery, or to pay the rent of his apartment, or to pay the tuition fees, or to provide food for his kids, whatever the necessity might be. If he approaches me asking for $2,000-3,000, I will give him. I don't mind. Even if he comes after 2 or 3 years, while the purchase power or the inflation has badly affected the value of the money, I don't care, because it is an interest-free loan. I'm not looking forward for any benefit other than the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But when it comes to business, I would say respectfully, no. Why should I give you your money to benefit from my money and I make zero benefit? If you want to utilize my money to upgrade your business, let's sit down together and talk business, right? I can give you the $100,000 based on the mudaraba mode of finance. I provide the money, you take care of the money, you invest the money on my behalf, and whatever profit we make, we share based on whatever formula. It could be 50-50, it could be 60-40, it could be, what's that? Yes, that's correct. Now when it comes to the profit rate, there is no restriction. It could be 70-30 or whatever. If there is no profit whatsoever, you just pay me back the $100,000. Worst case scenario, you took my money and then COVID-19 started hitting, right? And the business was shut down. You lost everything. Well, believe it or not, I cannot go after you asking for my $100,000. And this brings, as my brother said here, brings to our attention a very unique concept in the Islamic finance. It's all about risk sharing. Risk sharing. In the conventional system, they believe in the risk shifting. Risk shifting means that all the risk has to be taken by one party, and the other one is just sitting, making money, exploiting, taking advantage of the need of others, okay, without taking any risk whatsoever. This is the risk shifting. We do not believe in it. In the Islamic finance system, we believe in the risk sharing. If there is a profit, everybody will enjoy the profit. If there is a loss, everybody will be sharing the loss. Risk sharing versus risk shifting. This is one of the differences between Islamic finance and the capitalist one. Moving on, what kind of challenge we Muslims live in this society here are facing? Are we still debating the prohibition of riba, whether it is haram or halal? I don't think so. I mean, if you ask like any common person in the street, non-Muslim, okay, do Muslims deal with interest? The answer would be no. right? I mean, Muslims do not deal with interest. This is not the challenge. We all agree that riba is haram, right? Now, the challenge that we are facing here is to identify the interest-bearing transactions to be avoided versus the interest-free transactions to be conducted safely. Do you agree with me? The challenge that we are facing here is how to identify the interest-bearing transactions, okay, to be completely avoided versus the interest-free transactions to be conducted safely. Why it is a challenge? Because the terminology, okay, that we use in fiqh, if you open any classical Hanafi, fiqh al-Hidayah or al-Mabsut or whatever, you read certain terms that you do not find in the real life in the USA in 2021. Okay, you read riba al-fadl and riba al-nasa and riba al-nasi'ah and riba al-duyun. You get confused. Okay, you just close the book and that's it. In the real life, there is nothing called riba al-fadl and riba al-nasa and riba al-nasi'ah. There are completely different terms, and your job and my job is to investigate and scrutinize and find out whether or not there is a loan agreement where someone is advancing money, guaranteeing his money, guaranteeing the return on the investment, the principal or the premium, whatever it is called. If it is proven that someone is advancing money, guaranteeing his money and guaranteeing the return of the money, oh, that is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. This transaction has to be avoided. I'll give you several examples to show you how challenging it is for us to investigate and to unlock the secrets of the contemporary day-to-day transactions that we get involved in, and how really it is hard to identify or to navigate whether or not there is a riba involved in it. First example, do you think that opening a saving account is okay, is haram or halal? If you think that opening a saving account is halal, just for my curiosity, would you please raise your hand? Saving account, is it halal? طيب alhamdulillah. No. Okay, I will, inshallah. Yeah, I'm going to explain, inshallah. I'm glad that no one raised actually his hand that opening a saving account is halal. Well, my question here, why opening a saving account is not halal? You go to Bank of America again, Bad of America they call it sometimes. Okay, you have only $5,000. You open a saving account, right? And they give you like 2.5 or 3%, they call it APR, right? Okay. Now, from your perspective as a practicing Muslim, you look at it differently. Bank of America does not tell you, listen, this is an interest-bearing transaction. You are the lender, and we are the borrower. This is riba al-nasi'ah, right? They do not say it. But the nature of the agreement reflect the nature of an interest-bearing loan. What does it mean? Think about it this way. What does it mean that you give your money to somebody else, Mr. Bank of America, $5,000, and Mr. Bank of America guarantees those 5,000 by the FDIC, right? Plus 3%. Whether the bank makes money or incurs loss or whatever the situation might be, you do not care. Your principal is guaranteed, and your return on the investment or the premium on top of the 5,000 is guaranteed. What is the nature of this agreement? It is an interest-bearing loan. You are lending your money to Bank of America. You might say, hold a second, you wanna tell me that Bank of America needs my money? I have only 5,000 and they have $5 trillion. Do they need my money? Well, it doesn't go this way. Okay. It goes by the rights and the duties and the privileges of each party. If you advance your money to anyone and that amount is guaranteed and the return on that investment is guaranteed, that's an interest-bearing loan. So saving account means none but an interest-bearing loan, and that's why it is not an option. Another example. You have only $200 in your debit card, not credit, debit card. And you went to any point of sale, Walmart or Walgreen, and you made a transaction with $300. Usually the transaction goes through. Is that correct? If you have only 200 and you purchase something for $300, usually it goes through, right? And then, oh, it does. Mine actually does. Okay. Just for discussion purposes, I mean, let it go. Okay. Just assume that your debit card is like mine. Okay. I have only $200, and I did transaction for $300. It went through. Now, to my surprise, I received a letter or a charge on my bank statement. Okay, $35 overdraft charge. Overdraft charge. Now we need to unlock the secret of that $35. What does it mean? Yeah, that's good. What does it mean, overdraft charge? Well, we need to interpret the transaction. What's going on here? What does it mean? What does it mean that Bank of America, again, Bank of America, paid $100 on my behalf, right? Because I had only $200 and I purchased something, item, computer, whatever, for $300. It means that Bank of America paid that amount on my behalf, right? Is it a courtesy, or I have to pay back the $100? I have to pay it back. What do you call this one? Transaction. What do you call it? It's a loan, right? Okay. So Bank of America loaned me $100. If I have to pay back only $100, then like no concern. I borrowed 100, I paid it back 100. The problem here is that I have to pay on top of the 100, $35. I mean, it could be $5, whatever the amount. Okay. Now that $35 overdraft charge is not introduced to you as an interest, but in reality, how do you look at it? How do you interpret what happened? Well, it is an interest-bearing loan. You borrowed $100 from Bank of America. You paid it back $135. The extra or the premium, according to the definition here, is none but interest. Okay. So take a note. You need to check your checking account balance every day before you do a transaction, because whatever you pay on top of what you have will be counted as a loan, and consequently you have to pay they call it overdraft charge. Again, overdraft charge is not introduced to you as an interest, but in reality it is an interest. So far we have two examples, right? Saving account, which is an interest-bearing loan. Overdraft charge, which is an interest-bearing loan. Third example. Yeah, I will open the floor for question and answer. You have a rental property, and in the lease agreement there is like a clause called late fees. You ask the tenant to pay you in full $1,000 rent for that apartment, right? $1,000 for within the first 3 days of each month. If he did not pay you in full, then you charge him late fees. Oh, it's not interest, it is late fees. What does it mean, late fees, in this case? He owes you $1,000. Okay. Technically speaking, this is not a loan, but this is actually a debt. It's not. Technically, he did not borrow from you, right? He used your house for one month, and consequently, he has to pay you rent, like lease revenue. He owes you $1,000. If you receive more than 1,000, okay, then whatever extra you receive will be counted as interest. Now, you might ask, what is the solution? How can I guarantee? This is completely different discussion. Do not get confused. Okay, our job tonight is just to identify riba and to make it clear how to go through, how to unlock the secrets of different transactions and find out whether or not there is riba involved in it. So far, so good? Okay. That late fees is done, but riba. Another example, or example number 4. Okay. You used your credit card, not debit card, credit card. Okay, you stopped by any ATM machine and you withdraw some cash money. Do you know how many charges you will be charged? There is a one-time, like flat fees. They call it service fees, right? Per transaction, I think $3 or $4, whatever. And then after that, you will be charged certain APR for the actual amount that you have withdrawn. Okay. Now, when you use your credit card, are you using your own money or you are borrowing money from the credit company? You are borrowing money. Unlike if you use your debit card. If I stop by the ATM machine and use my debit card, this is not a loan. I'm using my halal money that I already deposited in my account. But my example here is about using credit card for cash withdrawal, right? One time service fees is fine. Someone, transported money from point A to point B and he wants $5 for this service, that's fine. But to charge extra for the actual amount that you have borrowed from the company is none but interest. So far we have 4 different examples. Okay, most of them, the extra charge that you have to pay is not introduced to you as a riba. It is introduced as otherwise. Okay, sometimes service fees, sometimes overdraft charge, sometimes late fees, sometimes profit. It could be revenue, it could be commission, it could be. They come up with different names. If you read contracts, okay, you will find interest, you find revenue, commission, dividend, profit, right? All these terms, we should not really care about them. Do you know why? Because they might reflect the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited, and they might not. They might not. I'll give you another example, which is completely the opposite one. You want to buy a car, okay, owned by your non-Muslim neighbor, John Smith, okay, and he's asking for $5,000 cash for the car. And he told him, John, I do not have 5,000. Can you make an installment sale for me? And he said, yeah, sure. It's going to be $5,000 price plus $1,000 interest. And you said, no, I do not pay interest. And he said, no. Okay, it has to be written in the contract. 5,000 price plus $1,000 interest. You take it or you leave it. Do you think that if you pay John Smith $6,000, okay, in 1 year, total price is well known. There is no third party to finance. You are not borrowing money from Bank of America. Okay, this is a credit sale or an installment sale, and the monthly payment is $500. Okay, no more and no less. Do you think that the extra 1,000 that you are paying him is counted as an interest? If you think yes, it is interest, raise your hand. It is an interest. If you think it's not interest, raise your hand. Okay, some of you did not raise their hands either. Okay, before we say it is interest or not. Oh, that's for me. Before we say it is interest or not, I want you to remember that you are not borrowing money from Bank of America to pay him 5,000 and you pay Bank of America 6,000 in 1 year. It's not the case. This is an installment sale and not a loan. Number 2, remember something else. Does John Smith have the right to ask for $6,000, okay, cash money for that car that does not worth more than 5,000? Can he ask for 6,000? He can. It's a free market, right? It's a free market. You take it or leave it. You just go to CarMax or to KKB or whatever and find out how much is the market value, and tell him that, okay, you are asking too much. Well, he knows that his car does not worth more than 5,000, but he's asking for 6,000. You take it or leave it. So my argument here is that if he does have the right to ask for $6,000 cash, for a car that its market value is 5,000. He can ask for 6,000. Why cannot he break down those $6,000 in 1 year installment? It's the same. This is one of the very few cases, by the way, where the Islamic finance system does acknowledge the what they call it, the time value, okay, or the opportunity cost, or the time value, okay. Very simple concept. If John Smith decided to sell that car cash for $5,000 to another individual, he will be able to make $1,000 profit within 1 year. So he has sacrificed that opportunity and gave you the car. You need to pay him, the difference. And that's why actually he's asking for $6,000 1 year. You know what? Even if he said this car is for $5,000 cash, or $6,000 for 1 year, or $7,000 for 2 years, or $8,000 for 3 years, and he gave you unlimited options. Up to this point, believe it or not, there is no haram. There is nothing wrong with this. However, you have to close the deal on one option only. Once you close, that's it. Okay? Once you close, you close. Is it $5,000 cash? Give him the money and take the car. Is it $6,000 for 1 year? Okay? Then you pay him every single month $500, no more and no less, for 1 complete year, and then you're good to go. You'll get the title clear, right? So this is one of the examples that show otherwise, that in the contract itself, it is clearly mentioned that, oh, the $1,000 is interest, but from your perspective as a practicing Muslim, it's not interest, it is something else. And that's why I said several times, you should not care too much about the terms or the terminology that is used, okay, in certain contracts in the industry in the US. Okay, do not get panic if you read interest, okay, or late fees, or profit, or revenue, or charge, or overdraft charge, or whatever the name might be. You need to hold a second, okay, and process that, the transaction, unlock the secret of the transaction, find out, is there any interest-bearing loan according to your understanding of the interest, not according to the to the US industry. How do they look at the interest? Because sometimes, many of the cases there is a difference between the two. Last example. No, once you close, I mean, that's it. I mean, he can break the contract, okay, but he cannot charge you extra money. He can charge you extra money in one case if he wants to pay that money for a collection agency or for an attorney, like to go after you and to charge you the money. I mean, that would be fine, right? That's a penalty clause, right? If you do not commit to your payment or time, then I'm going to break the contract. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, he has to secure his money. I mean, he wants his money. You either pay or just break the contract and give him the car back, right? So let me give you one more example. Inshallah, I'll open the floor for question and answer. What does mortgaging a house in the US mean? Mortgaging a house, okay? Mortgaging a house, taking a loan only, that's it. Okay, if you, yes, go ahead. MashaAllah. So there is a loan involved, right? Very good, MashaAllah. When it comes to mortgage, okay, it has 3 different agreements in one. 3 in 1. Mortgaging a house means 3 different agreements in one. Agreement number 1 is the sale contract. You as a customer or a client, you buy a house from the landlord. That's a sale agreement. Am I correct? And number 2, you do not have money, for fact. You go to a mortgage company, okay, and you apply for a loan. Once your application is approved, the mortgage company would pay the price of the house on your behalf to the landlord. They do not give you the money, they pay it, they write the check, payable to the landlord, right? And you pay that mortgage company the principal plus extra money, right? And the mortgage company will hold the title or keep the title or just put their name on the title as a lien holder, not as an owner. Am I correct, Sheikh Ahmed? As a lien holder, okay? Now this is agreement number 2. Agreement number 3, in order for the mortgage company to secure their money, to make sure that they will be getting their money back, they put a lien on the property. They mortgage the property. They put their name on the agreement, okay, on the deed of trust as a lien holder until you pay the principal and the interest, right? Now, we have 3 different agreements here. Sale agreement, loan agreement, and mortgage agreement. Sale agreement is halal. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ. Allah has permitted sale. Mortgage, according to the Quranic definition of mortgage, is halal. وَإِن كُنْتُمْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ وَلَمْ تَجِدُوا كَاتِبًا فَرِهَانٌ مَقْبُوضًا. Rihan actually means mortgage. Okay? If you ask me for $1,000 and I do not know you, okay, it is okay for me to ask you to give me your phone, keep it with me until you pay me back, because I do not know you, with all due respect, right? So once you pay me back, I'll give you the phone. That's called rahan. That's called mortgage. So we do not have any issue with the mortgage, according to the Quranic definition of the mortgage. We do not have any issue with the sale agreement, but we have a big concern with the loan agreement, right? Now we ended up having three different agreements. 2 of them are halal, 1 of them is haram. If you want to go like if you want to apply democracy, 2 against 1, then mortgage would be halal, right? Because we have 2 against 1. Is it the case in the Islamic finance system? No, it's not. Since there is one agreement that is purely explicitly haram, this is more than enough to ruin the whole agreement and to make it a haram one. So mortgaging a house traditionally, please do not ask me what is the alternative and there is a need. I mean, that's completely different topic. We are here tonight just to identify riba, and that's it. So since there is one agreement that's purely haram, then the whole mortgage process actually is not allowed. Okay. I can go like on and on, but I think you do have some questions like to discuss, and then inshallah we'll go further. We still have enough time. Let me go from my right side. Do you have any question? تفضل. Yes. That would be fine, because you are responsible for the source of your money. You are not responsible for the source of the money of others. That's a different scenario. If you are an investor, you give the money, you turn your back and you just go home. You are a silent investor. Okay, your name is not on the LLC or in the trust or on the C corporate or S corporate or whatever. You are not a decision maker other than just you put the money, you invest the money, and you just go home. You are a silent partner. If that is the case, and you know for a fact that other partners, including the developer himself, borrow money from banks and an interest-based loans, that is their responsibility. What you should care about, akhi, is two things. Number one, the source of your money, that is halal. And number two, the legitimacy and the soundness or the permissibility of the agreement that you sign with the developer. You are an investor. Based on a mudaraba, you give money, okay? You do not guarantee your principal, leave aside to guarantee your profit. If there is an actual profit, you will take your share and just go back home, right? If there is no profit, you take your principal. Worst case scenario, you might lose your principal. Now, let me just make it clear. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam have dealt with the mushrikeen in Makkah al-Mukarram, right? And he has dealt a lot, okay, in different business transactions with the Jewish community in Medina. Both communities, the mushrikeen in Mecca and the Jews in Medina, used to deal with interest. So some of their money that they paid to the Prophet ﷺ, different transactions, were coming from interest. It was never ever reported that the Prophet ﷺ refrained from proceeding with the transaction before asking the other, party, where did you get your money from? Which makes it clear, as long as the transaction itself is halal, you are not responsible for the source of money of the other partner, or the other business partner, or the other buyer or seller, with very few exceptions. If you are positive that his money is stolen money and he wants to buy something, I mean this is the exception, not the default, okay? Or the money has been embezzled, you are positive, right? Or stolen, or extorted, seized by force. So it's not his money, and he came to buy something from you, then you should refrain from that. Otherwise, you do not even have to ask him, where did you get your money from? You know what, akhi? Let me give you a practical example. Okay? In the masajid here in the USA, we hold fundraising for the construction, for the operation of our masajid. Do we ask our donors, where did you get your money from? We do not. Do we have to ask them? We do not. Is it appropriate even to ask them? Well, believe it or not, no, it's not. Even if we are positive that some of them might have mixed business or even haram business, I mean the haram is their responsibility. Once they give the money to the masjid, the masjid is taking it as a donation, right? As a donation, it becomes halal for the masjid to utilize it, whether it is for operation, for expansion, for construction. It doesn't make any difference. Clear, akhi? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Well, we have several evidences the Prophet ﷺ used to transact and deal with people. How about when he was making mudaraba with Khadija radiallahu anha before and after marriage? I mean, it was never ever reported that he stopped or he quit or he refrained or he denied the transaction because he was positive that money was coming from interest. So it goes actually the other way around, that you need to prove that the Prophet ﷺ, questioned or investigated the source of money after marriage. I'm not sure what does this have to do with the riba. I'm just trying to just keep it simple. Prophet ﷺ used to transact with the Jewish in al-Medina. He was living with them. In the sources, in the collections of hadith, there is no evidence at all. The Prophet ﷺ refrained or questioned or stopped any transaction because that money came from riba. So it means by default that you are not responsible, okay? You are not responsible for the source of income or the source of money of the other party who is transacting with you. Very simple concept. طيب I need to listen to only one individual now. Inshallah. What's that? Well, if I borrow money with interest, I'm the sinful party. I'm the sinful party. You as a merchant, if I go to your store and want to buy, you are not supposed to ask me, where did you get your money from? Is it haram or halal? Did you borrow money with interest or not? I mean, this is my responsibility. Your responsibility is to make sure that whatever you sell me is a halal product. You take your money and that's it. طيب, let me. Well, the prohibition status is not transferable from one individual to another. This is called al-haram la yantaqilu ila dhimmatain. Al-haram la yantaqilu ila dhimmatain. If I'm the one who has dealt with interest, I'm the exclusive liable party for what I have done. That money is haram for me because the source of money is interest. But when I pay to somebody else, it's not haram anymore. You read, for example, in Sahih al-Bukhari, when the Prophet ﷺ once stopped by Barira radiallahu anha, who was a slave girl of Aisha. Right? She was cooking meat. Prophet ﷺ asked Barira, the slave girl of Aisha, to serve some meat for him to eat. She said, Ya Rasulullah, innahu min as-sadaqah. This is a donation. Providing that Prophet ﷺ does not eat from the sadaqahs, he eats from the hadiyah. قال يا بريرة هو لك صدقة وَلَنَا هَدِيَّةٌ, which means that for you it's a donation, sadaqah, but when you give it to me, it's a hadiyah, it's a gift. You see, so that meat, if it was given to the Prophet ﷺ directly, it would have been prohibited for him because he's a prophet. He does not eat from the sadaqah. But since it went to Barira, and then Barira in different transaction gave it to the Prophet ﷺ, it became halal. Clear? Well, we need to prove first that using credit card is haram, which is not the case. It's not the case. I disagree. Okay, for Muslims living in the West in general, for the USA in particular, okay, using credit card is halal as needed. Halal as needed. Okay. Thank you. Number one, there is a general and public need for using it. You cannot build your own credit history. You cannot do some certain transactions without having credit card. You cannot use your debit card. You cannot use check-in, like personal check or cashier check. Okay, some points of sale does not accept anything other than credit card. So there is a public and general need for it. It's number one. And number two, riba is avoidable. Riba is avoidable as long as you do not use your credit card for cash withdrawal. You do not use it for cash withdrawal. You pay the outstanding balance on a monthly basis before the due date in full. Okay, outstanding balance for this month, for this month is 1,000. Before the due date, you pay it in full. You can keep using your credit card for decades without paying one single penny as interest. Am I correct? So it's not a pure haram option. Do not listen to the fatawa, with all due respect. Those scholars who send us fatawa from overseas, they do not know what's going on. They do not know the need of the Muslim community. They do not know how does the system even work. So they just give a fatwa like blind fatwa, credit card is haram. It is not. I do have maybe one or two here. Yes, sir. Yeah, inshallah. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing with me. طيب, جزاك الله خير. So we do have some agreement, you and I. Very good. طيب, yeah, I'm going to put you on hold, inshallah. Give me just 1 second. تفضل. Is that? Well, the good news here is that for Muslims in the US, we do have some reasonable options for Muslims to deal with. Okay, although the whole system is a non-Islamic one, but we do have some serious attempts by certain companies to fit within the system. Although it is impossible and I mean what I say, it is impossible to have a pure, sound, 100% halal mortgage system in the US because the whole system is a non-Islamic one. However, certain companies, they did a lot of effort, okay, to fit within the system and to come up with a model that is halal enough, and fits within, you know, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. We did our own homework as a fiqh council, as AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jews of America. Just for my curiosity, have you heard about AMJA? AMJA? Okay. We did our own homework. I'm a member of the Fatwa Committee. We are 7 different members. We did our homework and we studied the, you know, the agreements or the contracts and the paperwork of different Islamic mortgage companies in the USA. There are 5: Guidance Residential, University Islamic Financial, Devon Bank, Ijara Loan, and La Riba. To the best of our knowledge, and after, like, you know, checking with the Sharia advisory, like, board of those companies, if they have a Sharia advisory board, you know, board to start with, we found out that Guidance Residential is the most reasonable option for Muslims in the USA. And again, Guidance College, the one that I represent tonight, has nothing to do with Guidance Residential. It's only the name, right? What was that? La wallahi, I do not work for them. And I work for Guidance College. We are an academic institute. Guidance Residential is an Islamic mortgage company. So Guidance Residential is not a pure halal, 100% halal option, but it is reasonable, like, it is reasonable enough, right? Within the given circumstances, which one is reasonable, to go with a halal enough option or to go with the pure haram option? Well, to go with the reasonable halal option is definitely way better than going with the. So this is the good news. Yeah. By the way, we found out that option number 2 is UIF, University Islamic Finance, UIF. They do have Murabaha, they do have Ijara, and then Devon Bank. I would say that, you know, nowadays I would say number 3. Ijara Loan and La Riba both are non-Sharia compliant, period. They claim that they are Sharia compliant, but they are not. If you go to Ijara Loan, you might find my name as one of the, like, people who authorized them. This is incorrect. Ijara Loan is not a Sharia compliant one. La Riba actually is not a Sharia compliant one. So to answer your question, my brother, alhamdulillah, we do have some, you know, reasonable options for Muslims to mortgage their and I agree with you. Instead of wasting your money, putting your money, you know, in rent, and you own nothing, you might end up paying less on monthly basis, and after 15, 20, 30 years, you will become the owner of the house. طيب. Well, Sheikh, تفضل. Use the veto. This is a less prohibited scenario of riba, which is the conventional interest. If you do not pay on time, then you have to pay interest. But what if you pay on time? Yes, having late fees does not ruin the whole agreement and make it, you know, purely haram. Okay, it is an invalid clause in the agreement. However, it is binding. But the good news, it is avoidable. It is avoidable. Otherwise, I mean, you cannot even rent a house or apartment. If you want to go with the standard lease agreement, it has late fees, right? So that's something unavoidable. I mean, unavoidable in the contract, but it is avoidable in reality. If you commit to paying on time, I mean, you will not. No. In the beginning, I'm not sure if you were here. We said that sometimes the riba is avoidable and sometimes riba is unavoidable. In this case, riba is avoidable. If you pay on time, you don't have to pay interest. Unlike if you go to Bank of America and you borrow $10,000 for riba, here actually is unavoidable, right? So it is prohibited for itself by itself, and it cannot be permitted unless there is a necessity, right? But here, in case of late fees, riba is there, but it is avoidable, and that's called haramun li ghayri, prohibited for other causes, because it might lead to riba. Well, it might not. As long as riba is avoidable, the prohibition is less than the unavoidable interest. And that's why when there is a public and general need, okay, for the community to use something like credit card in the USA, then it should be allowed. It should be allowed as needed, and as long as you commit yourself not to pay interest. No cash withdrawal, you pay like the outstanding balance on a monthly basis before the due date, and you pay it in full, right? By the way, certain credit companies might charge you interest if you conduct any international transaction. If you buy something from Pakistan or from Bangladesh while here in the US, some credit companies, of course, I mean, they charge you wire transfer fees, which is fine. They charge you currency exchange. They make some money, which is fine. If they do charge you interest for the actual amount, okay, considering it as if it is a cash withdrawal, then you should not use that particular credit card for international transactions. But you need to double check with your credit company. Clear? طيب تفضل. Okay, what is haram here? What is haram here is that the lender taking that late fees and putting it in his pocket. If you charge the borrower, okay, or the person who has delinquent account late fees with the purpose of utilizing that money to go after him and to charge him the money by force, that would be fine. You pay that money for correspondence purposes that cost money to transfer the account to a collection agency, to give it to an attorney. As long as you separate that money and utilize that money to go after him and to charge him, that would be fine. Late fees is not haram for itself. It is haram. It's haram if it is taken and benefited from by the lender. You end up lending 1,000, getting it back 1,100. If that 100 is separated or tracked separately, okay, even if you're bookkeeping, okay, and utilize that money for actual collection activities, that would be fine. I agree with you. What's that? Now for the tenant, yes, it is avoidable. I mean, you just pay on time. Yeah. Every single Muslim lives in the US needs to have his or her own house. So the need is there. By any chance, Sheikh Ahmed, if you do have your own $500,000 to buy a house directly, please do not deal with Ahmed Ragab. He's a bad guy. Do not deal with guidance. But if you do not have $500,000, then you need to buy a house. 99.9% of the Muslims cannot afford paying cash for their houses, right? And that's why the need is there. You want to have a peace of mind, you want to have a financial, stability, sustainability. You want to leave something behind after long life, after you pass away, for your kids, right? So you need to have a house. Instead of wasting $2,000 every month, for rent, you can pay only $1,700. Well, you will be saving some money on a monthly basis, and you end up actually with having a house owned, fully by you after 15, 20 years. So the need is there. This is one thing. The other thing, why Amjad said in case of need, in case of dire need, here is the answer. If it is proven that a certain agreement is halal, it has no shubuhat, no doubtful matters, no glitches in the agreement, you don't have to prove that there is a need to get involved. Well, it is halal, right? Now, more violations, more glitches, in the contract, need to prove that there is a need to get involved in that transaction. Now, if we ended up having an agreement that has a pure haram element or component, unavoidable interest, then necessity has to be proven to allow that transaction. I'll give you like a very hypothetical scenario. Someone lives in a small apartment and has a big family, has 6 or 7 members, right? Yeah. And the apartment complex told him that you cannot renew your contract. You cannot. You have to get out because you have a big family. That person applied for guidance residential, was denied. UIF was denied. Devon Bank was denied. And had only one option, either to go to a mortgage company to mortgage his own house, or to be thrown in the street along with his wife and his kids. Can he go to a mortgage company and mortgage his house? Well, definitely he can, right? Definitely, because that's a necessity. I cannot live in this, I cannot become a homeless, right? So necessity is there. Islamic alternative is not there. I've been denied by all these Islamic mortgage companies, right? Can I mortgage my house? Yes, I can. Because, thank you, because necessity actually is proven. Necessity is proven. Let me take a key. Can you please come closer? No. As long as you can afford renting a house, then there is no necessity here. We disagree with it. As simple as that. We disagree with it. طيب. Is it adhan time? I mean, I can stay. I can stay until tomorrow morning. I get my dinner, my coffee, so I'm good. Sure. تفضل أخي. نعم. Well, retirement accounts actually is a very big and very detailed topic, but let me just keep it simple. Some of those retirement accounts are employer based, and some of them are individual based. Employer based could be up to certain limit managed, or you do have a word to say, especially when it comes to 401k. Or 403B if you work for a non-for-profit organization, you will be getting certain options, right? Like your financial advisor might give you different they call them portfolios, and you choose from them. Okay. Now your job is to investigate and to find out what kind of portfolios you have and which one is the most Sharia compliant one. If you ended up, for example, finding out that portfolio A has only 10% haram, portfolio B has 30% haram, okay? Portfolio C has 70% haram. You just limit yourself to portfolio A, even if you are positive that it does have haram. Because looking for a purely halal retirement account does not exist. This is from one side. From the other side, we need to be practical. We need to be realistic. Prophet ﷺ said, إنك أن تذر ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تذرهم عالة يتكففون الناس. Leaving your inheritors, your family members, financially stable, wealthy enough, is way better than leaving them, poor, begging people. We have to think in a very realistic way. I have to leave something behind for my kids. Yes, I depend on Allah, I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I'm taking all the possible measures. The third thing, there is nothing in the Islamic finance system shows that if a certain business has 10% haram, whether it is portfolio or any business, and 90% halal, there is no proof, there is no base that the 10% haram would contaminate and prohibit the remaining 90%. And vice versa, the 90% halal does not make the remaining 10% halal. Whatever is halal, whatever is haram is haram. It's called a mixed business. It has haram and halal. Portfolio wise, you have 10% in your portfolio haram, and 90% halal. If you can by any chance custom design your own portfolio, and put aside all the financial instruments that you are not happy with, what they call them, subhanallah, bonds and derivatives and other futures and options, and all these like CDS and CDO and all these different financial instruments that most of them are not halal. If you are able to put them aside and to purify your portfolio, then you have to. But if you cannot, just keep it as is. But do not compromise your whole 401k because it has 5 or 10% haram in it. I mean, this does not make any sense whatsoever. Sharia-wise, logic-wise, this is unacceptable. I came across some brothers, mashallah, very practicing brothers. They do not even have 401k. Why do not have it? Oh, it's not a pure halal option. Subhanallah, can you find the halal option? If the answer is yes, go for it. But if not, then go with the most halal one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Be conscious to your Lord as much as you can. This is my ability. Now the other kind is the individual based one. Like if you have a brokerage account, if you have IRA like me, I do have IRA, individual retirement account. Could be a brokerage account, could be a TD Ameritrade, could be like a different option. Could be 529 for the education of your kids. If that is the case, you do have a word to say more than the employer-based one, right? You need to make sure that you go with the segments or with the industries that are halal. Now, in the real life, it's not only the core business of the company that determines the permissibility of a certain stock. It's way more complicated than what we think. There are certain issues that have to be investigated on every single stock. Something called the debt asset ratio. Debt asset ratio. I'll give you just a random example. Microsoft, their core business is halal. If it is proven that they have more than 30% cash, it means that you cannot trade in Microsoft stock, because if the stock in the market worth $100, it means that 30% of the stock reflects money, cash money, and 70% assets. You cannot trade, you cannot sell that stock for more. You are selling money for money. There is something else called an interest-bearing investment. If they do have more than 30% investment in saving accounts, you cannot deal with it, right? There is something called interest income. If they do have 5% of their revenue coming from interest, you cannot deal with it. Although the core business is, oh, mashallah, it's Microsoft, computer, software and hardware, computer company. But the reality is that, like in the real life, there are like too many things have to be investigated and figured out in every single stock in order for you to determine that, oh, this company is halal to deal with its stocks or not. In the market nowadays, here in the US, we do have some companies in which I'm the Sharia advisor of those companies, and I can tell you because I'm their Sharia advisor that their business is halal. One of them is called Atina, AATINAA.co, not .com, .co. Okay, if you go to their website, they give you the option of subscribing with them. You can subscribe with them. You pay them $15, $20, $25 a month, and they send you like notification on daily basis. Okay, they do not take custody of your money. Your money is your money, right? They just send you notifications. Okay, we have sold this stock. We have bought this stock, and it's your call. You can follow them. You can just ignore their notification. That's Atina, AATINAA.co. They have a very good service, a free service, which is I think they call it the scrutiny one. They have a bar. You just enter the code of any company that you want, and a click, it will give you the result immediately, whether or not it is a Sharia compliant one based on Athena standards. It could be Apple, Mac, it could be Microsoft, it could be Walmart. Just type the code of the stock and click. Okay, it will show the result. A very short report. If you want to read more, okay, click and you will read more details about it. There is another company called Zaki Financial. Zaki, Z-A-K-I, financial, one word, zakifinancial.com, right? This is an investment company. You open an account with them, they take custody of your money, they invest your money in the stock market. I'm their Sharia advisor. Okay, I meet with them twice a year and go through the list of their stocks, okay, and check the system. How do they purify and how they investigate and just put aside the haram ones. You can open an account with them. So you have two options: Atina, which is just an advisory company, just to do an advice, or Zaki Financial, for an actual investment. We do have a lot of mutual fund companies, okay, but I do not know how Sharia, because I'm not involved in their business. I'm not saying that they are bad. No, I do not know about them. Maybe one exception here, which is Azad Fund, AZZAD, Azad Fund. This is a good mutual fund company. They do have a Sharia. I'm not a part of their Sharia board, but I know that some scholars, well-versed scholars in Islamic finance, are supervising the overall performance of Azad Fund. So you can also open an account with them. طيب تفضل. Here is the issue. Sometimes a certain stock might be halal in the first 3 months of the year, and then because different factors have been changed, that stock might become a restricted one or not halal one, based on the different factors that I mentioned: debt asset ratio, interest bearing investment, interest income, in addition to the core business of the company. And that's why with Atina, for example, I meet with them for 1 hour every 3 months. Okay, they collect all the data in the stock market in the US. They have more than 12,000 different stocks and financial instruments. Okay, they filterize them all the way to only 800 stocks. From 12,000, they go down to 800 stocks only. The halal ones, based on our standards. Without having an access to certain database, government-owned database, and investigating what kind of business, how much cash they have, how much interest they generate, how much the interest bearing investment they have, how much is the debt asset ratio, you cannot make a judgment. Take it from me. You cannot. And that's why I said to my brother here, in the real life, it's a very complicated issue. It's not, wallah, this is Microsoft, I mean, they deal in computers and software, it's halal, and this is a winery or gambling or adult or haram. It's not that simple. Oh, mashallah. طيب, can you manage the discussion because I'm in تفضل. You need to send me an email and I will reply back with the MJ declaration. It's a very long topic. It's written in Arabic and in English. All the details that you could ever think about actually are there. It's a long topic. I mean, if I'm to answer it now, it's going to take us like another 45 minutes. Yes. Because the interest. Are you asking me or when I have a discussion with you? It is my answer, Akhi. In the system here, in the US at least, okay, saving account is a money generating account by default. It generates money. Now, you take the money, you keep the money, you deny the money, that is your option. But if you say that I do not want to take the interest, you cannot stop generating interest because that's the system. Okay. If you agree with me that opening a saving account is prohibited for itself because you are getting involved in an interest-bearing transaction from day one, then we cannot justify it unless there is a necessity. Okay. Necessity means that something that you need and there is no alternative. Okay. It does not have, by the way, it doesn't have to be. Yes. Yeah. It doesn't have to be life or death situation. If you have any business in the stock market, okay, you cannot trade in the stock market without having a money market account. Well, money market account is a kind of saving account, and in this case it is halal. It is halal because again you cannot proceed with any business without using without opening a money market. However, you have to limit yourself to the settlement only. You buy, you sell, okay, but you should get rid or just dispose the haram money that you generate from that. Clear? طيب. Yes, sir. Can you please speak up? If you are in desperate need for that money and you could not find anyone who is willing to give you $200 with no interest, you are in desperate need, you are sick and you want to buy some medicine, for example, you want to pay for the tuition fees of your school, and there is no other option, yes, I mean, you can get involved in riba and borrow money because I mean, there is a necessity. Clear? خلينا نتكلم بعد الصلاة يعطوني بس دقائق بعد الصلاة. يعني لو تعطيني أتكلم الآن. طيب ما في اسمه يعني ما بصيرش أطلب من الناس فلوس. طيب. طيب briefly, alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. If I can have just your attention for a few minutes, please. I just want to share with you quickly the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam which is a very, scary hadith actually. The hadith goes, إن الله لا يقبض العلم انتزاعا ينتزعه من صدور الناس. This is a very authentic hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari, by the way. That Allah does not eliminate Islamic knowledge by snatching it from the chest of people. ولكن يقبض العلم بقبض العلماء. However, the Islamic knowledge will be terminated by the death of scholars. حتى إذا لم يبق عالما, until he leaves no knowledgeable individual alive, of course in a certain community. اتخذ الناس رؤوسا جهالا. People will be assigning some ignorant individuals and take them by the scholars. فسئلوا, they would approach them and ask them questions. فأفتوا بغير علم, and they will be answering with no knowledge. Okay? فضلوا وأضلوا, they will go astray and they will lead their community astray as well. Of course, the Prophet ﷺ